Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Fatina Najah binti Hassan. My metric number is 200457.
My name is Cha Jingpei. My metric number is 201939.
Hi, my name is Tan Li Hui. My metric number is 203411.
When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. Quote by Ayurvedic proverb. This quote basically is related to our presentation today. In recent years, the daily food intake of processed food has increased dramatically. Processed food now account for about 25 until 60% of a person's daily energy intake. The question here is, what are the consequences of consuming too much processed food? As three of us are students under the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics of University Putra Malaysia, we will convey our knowledge about health risks of processed food based on our research and findings. So, the topic of our presentation today is health risks of processed food. Our presentation will be divided into three parts. The first part, introduction. The second part will be the 4 health risks of processed food. And the third part will be the conclusion. There are 4 health risks that we are going to explain later, which are: processed food contains full of artificial ingredients, it is calorie dense and addicting, can cause obesity and chronic disease, and it will increase the risk of cancer. Before we go more detail in our presentation, let me give you an overview. What is actually a processed food? Processed food is any food that is usually modified for various reasons. For example, to extend the shelf life of the food, to improve the appearance, and to improve the taste of the food. Processed food will undergo various processes, and they will undergo some modification in their nutritional composition. Basically, there are 2 types of processed food, which are chemically processed food and mechanical processed food. What is the difference between these 2 types of processed food? Mechanical processed food, such as pasteurization, grinding the beef, and heating the vegetables, does not necessarily make it harmful for human consumption. On the other hand, chemically processed food, where manufacturers add a lot of artificial ingredients such as chemical substances, artificial coloring, artificial sweetener, and flavoring, and these chemical substances may give undesired effect to human consumption. So, let's get started talking about the first point of our presentation, which is, as processed food has a lot and full of artificial ingredients, this may give a bad impact to human consumption. For example, artificial colorings such as blue 1, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 can give an allergic reaction to some people. In addition, in recent studies, these artificial coloring dyes also believed to promote hyperactivity in children. Next, red 3, or we call it as erythrocyan, have been proven to increase the risk of getting thyroid tumors based on recent animal studies. For your information, some countries have banned and heavily regulated this coloring additive. This shows that coloring additive is quite dangerous for humans' consumption. Next, artificial sweeteners such as aspartame also can give undesired effect to human health. For instance, aspartame, the consumption of processed food that contains a lot of aspartame will give symptoms such as seizure, depression, and headache to some individuals. These symptoms will definitely disturb our life as a student, as we need to attend classes and finish a bunches of assignments. We students, we prefer to choose processed food compared to healthy and nutritious foods. This is because processed food tend to taste good, and in terms of price, it is quite inexpensive and we can afford it, and it is convenient as we don't have to take much time to cook it and we just have to buy it. That's all from me. To discuss about the second point, we have Cha Jingpei to present.
Second health risk of processed food is processed food will cause obesity and chronic disease. Nowadays, college student lack of time, lack of food option in school. They tend to choose food according to time, convenience, and price, but no nutritional values. And now processed food will become the best option for them. However, do they know that processed food contain high amount of fat, sodium, and sugar? Highly processed food contain high amount unhealthy level of fat, sodium, and sugar. These ingredients in food make the food taste better. However, this will also lead to chronic disease such as obesity, hypertension, and heart disease. Hence, can be denied that processed food is associated with elevated blood glucose, blood pressure, and cholesterol. Dr. Chow, the chairman of Partnership to Fight Chronic Disease, once said, while the quantity of the calories is an issue, perhaps more important is the composition of the calories that can and does contribute to chronic disease. Moreover, college students will lack of nutrients because they lack of fresh vegetables and fresh fruits. Why? Because when they eat more processed food, the consumption of fresh vegetables and fruit will decrease, and the vitamin and fiber, which can maintain their health, may decrease. And for example, college students may have constipation problem because lack of fiber, and they may easily get flu or cough because they lack of vitamin. In short, processed food will cause obesity and chronic disease. Thirdly, processed food has greater potential to abuse liability. Friends, what do you do when you feel stressed? For example, tomorrow is the due date for your assignment and you haven't done yet. What do you do? I trust that many of you will say, eat. What do you eat? Junk food. Junk food is associated with greater potential of abuse liability. And do you know that junk food is also addicting and calorie dense? Junk food is low in satiation value. You won't feel full after eating them. What you feel is unsatisfied, and this will always lead you to overeat and eventually cause addicting. The current study shows that highly processed food which contain added fat or refined carbohydrates is associated with addictive like eating. In addition, college students is easy to overindulge in processed food and may consume more calories than they realize. For example, one piece of Oreo contains 50 calories, and 1 cup of green beans contains 44 kilocalories. Do you know that the differences between 1 piece of Oreo and 1 cup of green beans? This shows that how calories dense of processed food is. When you know that 1 bite of Oreo is already contain 50 calories. Hence, this processed food will make our brains feel good and make us craving for more in the future. In short, processed food is associated with abuse liability. Yes. So next, that's all from my points. So the next point we have the weight.
Okay, last but not least, the processed food will also increase the risk of cancer. So what is cancer? Cancer is often referred to as a malignant tumor cell that grow in our body. Now, there is a research done by the BMJ has stated that for every 10% increase in the consumption of processed food will cause a 12% increase in cancer in general and an 11% increase in the risk of getting breast cancer. But how does processed food increase the risk of breast cancer? Well, as we know that processed food consists a lot of unhealthy fat, especially trans fat. This trans fat will cause obesity and is associated with hormonal imbalance in our body. This hormonal imbalance will cause chronic inflammation on cells, especially breast cells, and cause cell tumor and eventually will cause breast cancer. Besides, processed food also consists lots of extra fat, which will make extra estrogen in our body. This extra estrogen will make extra breast cell growth and finally will cause breast cancer. So it can be clearly seen that if the student eats lots of processed food since adulthood, then they may suffer from this breast cancer since their adulthood. Secondly, the processed food also increase the risk of getting endometrial cancer. Now, where is the location of endometrium? Endometrium is part of female reproductive organ and here it is. So as we know that processed food also consists lots of sugar. This sugar content will promote insulin production and cause chronic hyperinsulinemia. The insulin will promote cell proliferation and tumor cell growth acting on the endometrium tissue. Besides, there also evidence show that chronic hyperinsulinemia is associated with ovarian hyperandrogenism through anovulation and decreased progesterone level, which may increase the risk of getting endometrium cancer. So it also can be clearly seen that if the student eats lots of processed food, especially for female students, then they may suffer from this endometrium cancer. So in conclusion, we have seen that the health risk of processed food is full of artificial ingredients, it causes obesity and chronic disease, it's caloric dense and addicting, and lastly, it increases the risk of getting cancer. As the word of Roman poet Horace, he has said that healthy eating is a way of life. Let's establish a routine which is simple, reliable, and doable. Hence, let's eating healthy together, but put aside the processed food from now onwards. That's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.